Hey, this is Troy Sanders from Mastodon.
And this is Mark Morton from Lamb of God, and you're watching Two for the Road on Heavy Consequence. I had already known Bill and Braun from their time in Today's the Day. So for me, Mastodon was this new thing that Bill and Braun had started,
Right.
and moved to Atlanta, or started or moved there to become. I didn't know the exact chronology of how it came together, but I knew that it was Relapse. Um, and I don't remember where that fell, but for a long time we really wanted to be on Relapse, and our understanding was they didn't sign us because we were too much of a train wreck internally and personally. Although I'm sure that was probably part of it, but I'm sure there were many factors. Um, but that I think was when it first came on my radar, and then watching those listening to and watching those first couple albums develop creatively, um, I just was a fan of the ambition, the creative ambition. And that's what I think of when I think of Mastodon. Is like it's heavy, but it's really refuses to be contained by genre. Um, Sometimes aggressively refusing to be retained by genre. Um,
Well
and
said. Yeah.
and I I admire that, because it can flirt with Sabbath and Rush at the same time, and can flirt with um, you know Slayer and Queens of the Stone Age at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's very much what, this amalgamation of what my heavy playlists might look like.
Love it.
Um, and
That,
the fact that just about everybody, I don't know, I'm not sure how much singing Bill does, but just about everybody can sing, and everyone is a monster player. So there's really just very few boxes left unchecked. The choreography is a bit lacking.
it always has been our weak spot.
we're,
Thank you,
we're
Mark.
we're guilty of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that the history of pre-Mastodon, we were already half of our band was in Today is the Day, and they had befriended Brenda Priest while recording, living in studios together while recording. So Mastodon formed in January 2000, and we were already very, very familiar with what you guys were doing and kind of looked up to you right away until we were able to share stages together 4 years later. And I think that when our records came out on that day in 2004, The Ashes of the Wake, Leviathan,
That fateful day.
yeah, what a cool day. I've met a lot of people over the years that bought those two records, the same day. And we had only had the two records before, very small, on Relapse, just doing our little DIY basement tours. So Leviathan is what we took a chance and, wrote an album coinciding with the story of Moby Dick, which was either going to be genius or fatal. And so it took us from being a no name to being something, on the same day that I feel your record took you from really good, and just shot you up. And it's always, on many levels, we've looked up to you since day one, and then even more so when that record came out. And that's when we started sharing stages together. It was, I think, 2004, because we went from 4 years in a van to opening for you and Slayer immediately after our Leviathan record came out and the Ashes of the Wake record came out. So I look back at that 20 years ago, not with like nostalgia really, because we still play a lot of those songs, and it's really fresh. It still feels fresh to me, and because I enjoy playing them live, and I'm proud of that record. So I'm glad that we're doing this thing we're doing this summer. Um, but that 20 years went quickly. You know, I guess both of us have been on the road a lot and doing a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of life has happened. But I really don't look at it with like a historical thing. I mean, it's super cool, but it still feels very fresh to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way, even when, we just were with you guys on the boat last fall, and the Headbangers boat, and on it feels like it's never too long before we're doing something with you guys, alongside you guys, and it just feels like to me that Mastodon and Lamb of God have been shoulder to shoulder the whole time. It's when we stand in a room together, we're with friends, and it's just always cool, and it's been that way from day one, since since Burn the Priest. Right. And today is the day, you know what I mean? It's been that way, and still is, so I'm looking forward to this summer.
Me too. One thing I've always, I speak for my entire band probably, is that, through the Lamb of God longevity, you guys have all maintained this really incredible level of pride without ego. And it's what you just said, like every time we're in a room together, we can just start where we left off, and conversations can be silly, or they can be brutally deep and honest, like from the get-go. With you and many other of the bandmates, it's like there's a level of camaraderie, respect, and friendship there that's pretty priceless, in my opinion.
That just happened, when you and I were on the boat and we sat at the table together, and I hadn't seen you in a little while, and we just unpacked all this like life. We weren't even talking about music, right? We just unpack all this life stuff, and it's just like a trusted friend, and that's how I feel about all you guys, and
us too.
It's just a cool relationship, cool dynamic.
Agree. And another thing is really cool about you guys is lack of pretentiousness, I think. And I remember, this is pretty funny, Ozfest, I don't know how long ago this was, but it was crazy hot. We're playing the parking lot, and we're just dripping sweat in Phoenix or something. We play at 1 PM, and we just have like our cut off sleeveless shirts and our shorts on, and we're playing like this, like we're not putting our normal stage costume on, our jeans and our boots and stuff. And I remember someone, I don't know if they were serious or joking, they say, "You're not going to wear that up there, are you? Look like Lamb of God." And I was like, that's because they're not pretentious. And who the fuck are you to judge any musical act or band whatsoever by wearing shorts on stage? And I remember being defensive right away. And I was like, who are you to, and that dude could have been joking. I don't even know. But
that's a compliment.
I agree. It is a compliment. Anytime people ask, like, what are those guys like? And I'm very good friends with majority of your band, and can talk real life situations from the get-go, and I like to use that line now. I'm like, they're very real, and they're very honest, and they have no pretentiousness. Just look at what they wear on stage. What they wake up in is how they are all day.
It's true. It's true.
Particularly at night, and then we have a conversation and go to bed and do it again the next day. So,
and in fact, on tour, I literally have like, I mean, I'll have more under the bus in the Bay or whatever, but like I'll have like 2 or 3 sets of like black jeans, black t-shirt, and we send laundry out or do laundry every day, so I'll wear the stage clothes, and then those become the day clothes the next day, and you know what I mean? I just do this,
right?
And it makes it very practical. It's very efficient for touring.
Our bands collectively will never have like the wardrobe case that rolls in with the hangers and the dry cleaning and the, and it's cool that bands do that. I'm not talking nonsense, but I don't know, just one of the many things that we dig about Lamb of God and the aura that is you all.
And I'll say this about Mastodon too, and this is really the truth for me. Whenever you guys release music, or whenever I'm, going in and listening to your stuff, it's a bit of a head check for me to like, am I as a songwriter, are we as a band digging deep enough into creative ambition? Are we stretching out enough with what we're doing to keep it fresh and keep it moving forward? I think as a band, we are more definable in terms of our style of music than Mastodon, and but I still aspire to kind of stretch and push what that boundary is for us. And you all are a gadfly of sorts for me, because I will listen in to see how ambitious you are, how much you're stretching out, and what risks you're taking with your songwriting and your pushing styles, as a barometer check on, while I don't necessarily want to shift as radically as you guys sometimes do, not because I don't think it's cool, but just because it's not necessarily what we do collectively. I do use that as a point of reference for, like, bringing me a little closer to that in terms of vision for a song or for a project.
Sure. That's awesome, man. I think if our bands don't have that type of awareness, one wrong move and it's not a good look. We've done too much, and when we did Leviathan, for example, that was our third record. We were an unknown band, and we took this risk about the Moby Dick story and everything. We had nothing to lose. But as each record progresses, and as our bands continue to ascend this mountain of popularity and respect and whatever in our community, if we ever just phoned it in or didn't give much of a damn on our next record, it would be very obvious to the massive amount of fans that we've garnered over the years, and so to be aware, like you said, I think is more important than ever, and we still do that. It's like each record becomes more and more, it's got to be strong. It's either got to push, or it's got to stretch, or we just can't phone it in.
Well, I think we just care. I think both camps really care, and that's really what's at the essence of it. That's what at the root of it is just. And I know your band works the same way as my band in this sense, where the most critical audience are us, the ones in the room. Like, if it can get out of a Lamb of God studio room or rehearsal room or a Mastodon studio and everyone has signed off on it, that's a really, really brutal filter, because there's a lot of really critical eyes and ears on that stuff in our band and in your band. For those that don't know any of us personally or whatever, it's some really kind of prickly and intense personalities involved in the creation of this music. Like, it's all love, but at the same time, we all care a lot, and we're not all the easiest. I'll speak for myself. I'm not the easiest person to work with in a writing room or in a studio room or something like that. I try to be respectful, and I think I usually am, and I try to be open-minded, but it's not always like, it's not, rainbows and flowers, like, lollipops, like writing these songs. It can be sometimes kind of contentious making these decisions, and I know you guys are the same way. But what's at the bottom of that is passion. It's because people care. If nobody cares, then nobody cares, and it's probably really easy, and the results sound like that, and the listeners know, like you alluded to a minute ago, like the fans know, like Mastodon fans, they're plugged into that stuff. They're in deep, and Lamb fans are too. So you're not going to fool, on my 9th, 10th record, I'm not going to fool a 20-year Lamb of God fan. Like, I'm not going to get over them. And Mastodon fans are the same way.
All of us in the room while creating, we're all super passive. It would just be a reflection of lack of passion and caring, and
sounds like apathy, and that's not what we want to do.
Yeah, if either of us put out a real flop of a record that reflected like lack of enthusiasm or the fire inside, that'd just be pure suicide. And same thing with live. We've never taken our live performances as serious as ever over the past 7-8 years. Just realizing in the early days it didn't matter. We were just having fun, and it didn't matter how hungover I was and had a terrible voice. But then you realize if you want to keep getting better, you can't do that again. That's an error you cannot repeat. And so to this day, it's nice that my bandmates and I take the live show more serious than ever, 24 years into our career. So
for sure. And we feel that, gearing up to go into this tour with you guys, like, it's not as decision is made on production or on any of that stuff without thinking like, listen, we're playing with Mastodon and they're playing Leviathan. So like, everything's got to be banging for us to even just, contend and to be worthy of that juxtaposition. I'm always inspired
and elevated by the opening act, whoever it is. And if you're on a festival, it could be a band that's even way more popular than you, tighter, better, whatever. But regardless, the fact that that we've got Kerry King out with us this fall is incredible. Not only because we've done so many tours with Slayer and like befriended those guys, but they're going to be tight as hell. And for them to play before us, it's going to, you just can't roll in and wing it.
Absolutely
not that we ever intend on it, but it's good to elevate your, it's like, all right, dudes, you ready?
So I want to touch on that for a second, because it speaks to the character of Kerry King, a legend in this game, utmost respect, like part of some of the greatest metal songs in history, a huge Slayer, absolutely formative in my understanding and my love for metal. And Slayer has taken Lamb of God out multiple occasions, Mastodon out on multiple occasions at some point together. And so now Slayer is defunct, on hiatus, whatever it is that they're doing or not doing. I don't know how to characterize that, but they've not been around. They've not been actively working. And Kerry goes, first of all, it speaks to who he is as a musician and as a songwriter and as an artist and as a performer, that he doesn't just like kick back and go play with his snakes or, whatever he does for fun. He puts a new band together, writes a new album, records a banger of an album, and now it's going to go out on tour opening for these guys that opened for him. No pretense, no ego, none of the behind the scenes stuff was prima donna stuff, none of it.
Yep.
Because that's who he is. Because if there's any question about to the fans that are watching this or hearing this, I don't know how this gets communicated, but understand that dude is a real one, man. He's an absolute real one. He's doing this not for the money or trying to, it's none of that. He's doing this because that dude is in the truest, realest, most genuine sense of the concept, a heavy metal guitar player, songwriter. And if he can't do it with that band, he's going to do it with this band. And if he can't do it headlining, he's going to open up. It does not freaking matter, because that's who he is. And that is, like, out of all the things I could say out of respect and accolades for Kerry King, that to me hits the hardest. Like I want, that is the most impressive thing to me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and it's going to bring a lot of enthusiasm for fans to come to our show. It's our show.
It is for sure. It is for sure, and it's all family. All the stuff we said about Mastodon and Lamb of God, Kerry's out there. Phil Demmel's in his band. Phil Demmel has filled in with Lamb of God a bunch of times for me, Willie, and John on different occasions. I think he's filled in for me. I can't remember, but he's been around. Maybe not for me, definitely for Willie and John. But he's kind of a satellite member of Lamb of God at this point. So it's just really a real family vibe, and Malevolence and Unearthed are going to be on some of that stuff. Those are all homies too. So I'm excited.
My brother Kyle Sanders is the bass player for Kerry's band.
That's right. Kyle's in Kerry's band. That's right.
And he and Phil have been friends.
Talk about family. It's like literally family.
Yep. Well, I can start with Leviathan. We had put out Life's Blood on Relapse and then Remission, and we just toured basements and VHF halls and boat sheds, and we lived by bookyourownlife.com. And our friends in Clutch invited us to open for them in 2003, and we decided that we were an unknown band and we had all this new material for a new record, which was going to be Leviathan. So we played Leviathan pretty much start to finish, opening for Clutch for an entire month, and the tour was East Coast all the way through the US and wound up in Seattle, where we recorded Leviathan with Matt Bayless at Litho Studios. So we rehearsed Leviathan in front of a crowd that had never heard any of those songs ever, in the time where no one had a phone recording all the stuff, all your new stuff. Not that it would have meant much to us at the time anyway, but we were a relatively unknown band playing a whole record of unfamiliar material to an entire run opening for Clutch for thousands of people collectively, you know. Got to Seattle, and sure enough, we were pretty damn well rehearsed on the material. Recorded Leviathan. It came out, you know, we really stretched ourselves doing the Moby Dick story, and thankfully it worked out well, because a month later we were on tour with Lamb of God and Slayer. But that's the biggest memory for me, how we created, crafted, and honed in on the songs that became Leviathan.
For me, Ashes of the Wake was a real kind of pressure test. You know, we had been trucking along, really just playing squats and warehouses and clubs here and there, and we went on a little tour with Guar. We were on Prosthetic Records, which was like an imprint of Metal Blade, just all very independent and all very functional and cool. And then we did the As the Palaces Burn album, which really around the Ruin, we did a video for Ruin that was just, for some reason, it just clicked. It was particularly cool, and it lined up really well with like what was going on with you know, the Headbangers Ball thing that Jamie was hosting, and that was just a big time for that, and the Ruin video was happening there. And we were getting cool tours, death metal tours and that kind of thing. And we got signed. We signed to a major at that point. And we had just recently put out the As the Palaces Burn record, so all that was kind of happening, and we signed to a major, and they wanted their record. They wanted to go. So we really abbreviated what would have been what we considered a touring cycle for As the Palaces Burn, and how we would have normally done things was very much abbreviated. And it was like, go write this record. So, you know, as one of the songwriters, riff writers, lyric writers, for me, I felt like I had just, you know, squeezed out the sponge. Like, I didn't have a lot of living and creating in between the last purge of creative stuff that was As the Palaces Burn into what was going on, was going to be Ashes of the Wake. So all of that I just kind of pulled out of the ether, you know, with the help of my band. I didn't write the whole album, but I think we were all sort of squeezed out, and we just sort of very free form, very stream of consciousness wrote that record. And it was really terrifying for me in a way, because I felt like the stakes were high. We never imagined that album becoming what it became, or our career becoming what it became. But I was hoping to at least be on the label for 2 or 3 years so that I wouldn't have to work a day job. That was my goal. I was like, I'm going to get a good couple years out of this, you know? And so we really wanted to do a good job. We really didn't have a lot of material going into the Ashes writing sessions. But what you hear is what we came up with, and the stars aligned. And for whatever reason, the songs on that album and the timing of it and the era in which both these albums, the day that both these albums came out, the heavy metal world in 2004 was really ready for this stuff. And in a different interview, to bring in another band, I noticed that the Kill Switch Engage album, The End of Heartache, came out just a few months before these albums came out. So 2004 was really kind of a very big year for heavy metal in general, and this resurgence of metal that we were all sort of loosely and collectively a part of. And I think it was just a lot of luck, a lot of timing, and a lot of young, ambitious musicians that cared a lot about what they were doing, and those things lined up in the right current, and that's what we got.
Was Ashes the first record on a major label?
It was.
Yeah, it's terrifying, right? Because you hear the horror stories. You're gonna get this, you know, like it was a big deal. In our band's form, we never thought we'd see that moment of time, you know.
And was Leviathan your first major label release?
No, but it was right after. No, but it was. That's when we jumped from Relapse to a major, the following record, because Leviathan put us on the radar.
Oh, Leviathan is Relapse.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna say you guys would have really been letting them hang to do a concept record around Moby Dick as your first major label album.
Right. But yeah, the following record we did was Blood Mountain, and
Okay.
it was a very interesting, wild record. It's one hell of a ride, and that was our major label debut. And I felt the same way you guys probably did with Ashes. Like, man, this is too weird. Is it too heavy? People aren't going to understand. It's going to get shelved. Because over time, as a music fan, you hear horror stories here and there from major label debuts. So yeah, the stakes felt higher. I get it. We're at the halfway mark of 2024, and Mastodon's very excited about, digging back through all the Leviathan stuff and heading out on the Ashes of the, what's it called? Ashes Leviathan?
Ashes of Leviathan.
Sorry. So we're very excited to head out on tour with Lamb of God to celebrate Ashes of the Wake and Leviathan. But once that's over, I think that we are definitely itching to hone in on all the new ideas we've collected over the years and work on our next record. But this tour we're doing will take us, through fall, and then we're going to head overseas a little bit. So I think we'll dedicate the majority of 2025 to really honing in on a new Mastodon record. At least that's the vibe we're all feeling. But we're all kind of like chefs in the kitchen. We're not going to whip something together. It's gonna be a slow cooker, as it always is. At my house, in my kitchen, my crock pot is my best friend, and I love a food analogy. I'm always hungry. I'm a tall, skinny, fat guy, and always will be. So yeah, we hope to write new music. We've got lots of ideas. It's just a matter of timing and getting all four of us together who are all excited on the same level and doing the way that we always have since day one. So yeah, there will be new music. It's just a matter of when.
Well, that's really, really thrilling to hear. And for my part, I will be anxiously awaiting new Mastodon material. With regards to Lamb of God, I have nothing to report or announce.
I think the closest Spinal Tap moment I've had personally on stage was supporting Slayer at the Las Vegas Hockey Arena. We opened with a song called Iron Tusk off Leviathan, and it starts with a 4 count, click, 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 boom. And on that very first note, going down, hit the first note of the bass guitar, I get hit on the bridge of my nose with a hot Italian sausage covered in mustard with the bun. The mustard goes in my eyes, the bun breaks, goes down my face, and lands on my pedal board. And this is on the first note of the heaviest song, supporting Slayer in front of thousands of people. So it took me a quick moment to realize what the hell was happening. Look down, I see busted sausage, and the first thought was, holy shit, I got spicy mustard in my eyeballs. My second thought was, this was probably $12 and someone threw it at me. And my third thought was, I had no idea they'd sell hot sausages at a Slayer concert. So it was kind of a moment that's lived with me forever. I still have unanswered questions about that. But not quite a Spinal Tap moment, but it was very unexpected and quite impressive on multiple levels.
I'm going to change mine now after hearing Troy's story, because I have one that's very much in line with that. Opening for Slayer. I don't recall the venue. And I'm playing, it's going cool. We had always heard that this opening for Slayer is, you don't want to do that. You don't want to open for Slayer, you don't want to open for Guar, right? Their fans are going to crucify you. Well, we've had good experiences with both. Slayer fans have been very, very, over the years, have been very, very accepting, very hospitable. And in time, Slayer fans have become Lamb of God fans. And that's a cool thing. So open for Slayer, this is pretty, one of the first couple tours we ever did with them. And there I am on stage left, doing my thing, playing my riffs, rocking out. And you kind of, your head's on a swivel up there, just in general, just kind of keeping your wits about you. And I noticed coming from my left, the right side of the arena as you're looking at the stage, I see a cup flying, not uncommon. People throw cups and stuff up in the air or whatever. People raging, freaking out during a song. I see a cup flying, and I'm watching it kind of out of my peripheral vision, and I'm seeing it get bigger, and it's coming from a balcony or something. And then I watch it, if it's coming like as if someone were handing it to you, and then it flips. It does a somersault in the air as it's coming in. And now it's got my attention. And before I can wrap my head around it, it hits me right dead bullseye in the chest and splatters all over me. So somebody threw a cup of liquid, beer, I guess, and the thing spun and hit me in the chest. And now I'm soaked and it's running all down my guitar. Song's still going, we're still playing. And then, as Troy pointed out, my first thought was that was absolutely, I don't know how that happened. I don't know how physics allows that to happen. And my second thought was, beer is expensive here. I really, really hope that was beer. And I think it was, because it smelled like beer. So that's my Spinal Tap story.
I'd rather get hit with beer than recycled beer.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm pretty sure it was beer, but I just decided that it was beer. It smelled like beer.
good on you.